Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, friends. Whatever time it might be where you are out there.
Greetings, my excellent friend.
Hey there. My name is Jeff Fritz. Welcome back to the live stream. Today is January 24th, 2020. We're going to write a little bit of code today. How's it going there, chat room? Good to see you. Look at that. First one in, InstaFluff. Look at that. Hello, my friend. It's so good to see you. I forgot to get my my voice mod, my voice changer turned on here. Let me get this fired up. There it is. I've been dealing with some DNS issues. Do you like the DNS? Are you a big fan of working with domain name service? It's the backbone of the internet, right? It keeps things spinning. And I've been dealing with this. We tried transferring the livecoders.dev domain to me on Namecheap, and it's not resolving the SSL certificate properly for me. Even though it's a bunch of redirects, it's not handling, and I'm kind of it's not responding properly at all. So I'm not sure what to do. I'm trying to figure this out. I've been on chats with the folks at the service provider, and they're not very helpful. They're asking me to set up a hosting service with SSL with them, even though I'm not using the hosting service, and the DNS isn't ever pointing to that service. So I'm kind of confused as to what's going on there. Because it doesn't make too much sense to me. Let me say hello to everybody here in the chat room, and we'll figure out these DNS issues later. We don't need to talk about that right now. So, InstaFluff, so good to see you. Chris Jones, second one in. Hello, hello. Rambling Geek, good afternoon. Hugo, hello, my friend. Good to see you. Smab, hello. You're probably not here. You haven't decided yet. Oh, okay. There's Hugo.
The Hugodal just resubscribed for 14
Not
months.
the Hugodal.
14 months. Something clever relating to the number 14, party popper, balloon, confetti ball, party face.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Hugo is a tremendous asset to this channel. Thank you so much for helping out moderating all this time. Been a real big help here. Musical Bookworm is here. Good morning, Webface Kabazi. Hello, hello. Good Friday to everybody. Eternal Dev Coder. Marcus Voice Programmer. Potato Quality is here. Oh my goodness. Not only is InstaFluff a live coder, but so is our friend Potato Quality here. It's so good to see you. Thank you for tuning in. We will be decidedly PowerShell free, but I hope you have fun. I hope you have some fun tuning in. Job in PA, hello. DNS stands for donuts, not salad. Okay, all right. Chris Jones says, had to listen to the Scott podcast. He did with that was our live coders discussion we had, and I'm glad you enjoyed that. Yeah, you can catch folks asking questions on there like Robert Tables, Callow Creation. I think Lucky Number 7 was in there. Talk to Me Gooseman was asking a question as well. Really, really a good discussion that we had on our private Discord, and we recorded. Scott asked if he would mind if we shared, and we were happy he was able to publish that and share a little information about the live coders as well. So, Tim Blazor, happy Friday to you. Let me see. Oh my goodness, so much going on here. All right. So, thank you for the shout out for Potato Quality and InstaFluff. So let me get into this. I've shared some information about the DNS issue that I'm having over in the Tech Help channel on the Live Coders Discord, and we'll see if I know we have a couple folks that are DNS experts on the team. Maybe they can chime in and help. There, Rambling Geek I saw, he's another member of the Live Coders team as well. Where was I? So, I've got my Twitch hat on. Check this out. It's a Choose Your Own Adventure t-shirt, but it's not a real one. Look at this. Choose all the wrong things. You're the only one who can connect all the dots. Jump to 26 improbable conclusions. Internet detective. Yeah. So it's kind of, the white shirt is kind of messing with the brightness controls, the white balance from my webcam here, but that'll go away in just a minute when we flip over to our code. So, previously on Fritz and Friends, we were talking about, and we were writing some code to do some unit tests, and we updated our code to use the latest version of the test framework that our friend Eagle wrote to help us test Blazor components, right? And Blazor is that component-driven framework that we get with ASP.NET, with .NET. You can use C# with it to allow us to interweave HTML components, components that we write or we consume from other folks, and C#, right? We can interweave all of that and build applications that run on a server, that run on a client using WebAssembly. Yeah, we got our sentiment analysis back here. We didn't, for some reason it didn't work yesterday. Started to write up today. So that's why you see the tacos, because everybody loves tacos. So we've been working on a set of components that allow folks to migrate from the very old, the legacy. Don't use the term old. Old's a bad word, right? Folks to be able to move from that legacy version of ASP.NET and the web forms controls, be able to reuse a lot of that markup, but in Blazor. So we've been building these components and slowly building them, and our friend Eagle has a testing library for us that we've been using. We found a little bit of a bug there yesterday, and he took some time overnight for me, but in the past 24 hours, he took some time to identify the issue in his library, put together a fix, and release a fix, and send us a pull request. So I wanted to start off there today. All right. NetCodes loves Blazor so much. I do too. It's a tremendous, it's a tremendous framework. It kind of fits like a glove in the way that a lot of .NET folks think. You like to think in terms of components, widgets, and use those to compose bigger, better user interfaces, and to be able to pivot back and forth between C# and HTML, which all of us understand. HTML, right? It's CSS that we struggle with. And be able to build something that works potentially on any platform. That's a really cool thing. Really cool thing. So, let me get some music playing here, and we'll head over to the code. You know what? I'm thinking about using Pretzel today. Yeah, let's try. You know what? I'm going to use Pretzel today. What do you think about that? We'll use Pretzel Rocks today, just because shake things up, do something a little bit different, do the thing, something that we don't normally do, right? Change things up, right? I am signed in. I need to do the authentication thing again? Fine. Be that way. What's my password? I forget my Twitch password. It's going to send me a text message. That's not it. That's not it. Here it is. Let me key in the number here for this and that. Yes, verify the token, and we should have music. Okay. Yeah, abstraction. That's a good set here. And you're going to see messages pop into chat from the Pretzel Rocks bot. Oh wait, no, I have a subscription. We might not. Oh no, there it is. So you'll see the messages pop in every now and again about what song is playing here. That's playing on the entirely wrong. Right? It's playing not on the wrong what's it called? Wrong device here altogether. What the heck? Audio output device. Pardon me for a second. There it is. Now you can hear it. Is that better? Can you hear that now? Mindright says, aren't you glad none of us answered that rhetorical, what's my password question? Yeah, right? You know? So, alright. There we go. So now we got a little bit of abstract music playing here in the background. All right. Let's head over to the code. Let's talk about the pull request that we received. I've got 2 pull requests to review, and we'll take a look. We'll start. There we go. We'll start merging these in and get back into our data binding discussion for our TreeView component. All right. Hey, cute Polano, good to see you. Blazor Mr. Magoo is here as well. Hello, good afternoon. All right, let me head over to the code view. There it is. So, Eagle has a pull request here with a few tweaks that he's suggesting as we are fixing his, he fixed the bug in the testing library that we can take a look at. Hey, Fishing Dev, good morning. So here's the review that was requested and a couple files that were changed. When we take a look at the files that were changed, and I'm going to hide the white space changes, easy for me to say. It still picks up the white space changes, even though I told it to ignore them. This is all white space, don't care. This is a testing version change, stepping down to 16.4. And the Razor Components testing library going to 5.1. That's the new version that he just pushed. Shouldly going to 302 here from a 4.0 beta. That's fine. Shouldly is a reference that allows us to write those .should tests in our code, so that's okay. I'm fine with that change. Looking down here a little bit, our invalid custom validator, white space, white space. Even though I told it, ignore the white space, it's still showing it. Thanks so much. And this is just a carriage return here, fine. Another, just a carriage return, okay, carriage return. So this is changing dispose from a private async task to a protected virtual async value task. Just changing that signature on base web form component with a carriage return and public value task instead of an async, right? That's fine. And instead of awaiting dispose, suppress, finalize, and then return dispose, true. Okay. And this is changing to 3.1.1 versions of ASP.NET Core. That's fine. Base validator, including a reference to threading tasks. Bang used because we know it will set during onInitialized, and thus no need to worry about null. Here. Okay. So this is a C#8 thing to handle the null references. Added a cascading parameter for the current edit context. Interesting. Okay. And moved is valid up there. That's fine. See, now, why is validate? It moved. I'm not sure why. Validate string value. And renamed messages to message store because it is a message store. That makes sense. Current edit context validation requested is triggering an event handler, and we don't need this syntax. You can just pass it directly into, if it has the same signature, you can just wire it up. This is shorthand for all of this when it matches signature here in C#. Removed an override for onParameter set. Okay, this is Git getting confused here. But wired up dispose to remove the event handler on the current edit context. That makes sense. Okay. So dispose is that method that we want to call when we want to clean up references. So event handlers, you should remove connections to things so that they don't, so that they get disposed properly. Okay. Let's see here. Side by side might be a little bit easier here. Well, at this point, yes, I think you're right. Hello. Applying reload. Right, because of how Git's kind of confused a little here. So I was down in base web forms component. So yeah, see, it's just a couple of these are just plain carriage returns that are put into the code, and that's fine. See, so this is a different method altogether than what it's trying to map to over here. But removing the onParameter set when it isn't actually doing anything, that's fine. You don't need to actually implement this. Just let it trickle out there. The event handler was made private because we're not going to expose this to anyone. What Eagle has suggested here is that we have a validate method that actually does it instead of implementing and overriding the event handler here. That's fine. That makes sense. Fix a spelling error here. And actually creating and passing the event arguments around. Event arguments are a little bit more standard. Current edit context, notify validation state changed so that it properly refreshes the component. Get current value as string. Nice. That's a little bit of reflection here to just get the current value as string. Cool. I like it. Review changes. Thank you for making the what was it? Base validator? What's the name of that component? It was the not base web forms component. Base validator. A little easier to maintain, and cleaning up the dispose methods for us. Very cool stuff. Bald Bearded Builder is here. Hello, hello. You tried pushing ASP.NET 3.1.1 to Azure and it isn't available yet. Ugh. Don't know what to tell you about that one. Okay, so this is correct. This is appropriate here. And this is, let's call this, that's fine. Very cool. All right, so now our TreeView branch has all the features and it is compiling and running properly. We have the check that shows us that our continuous integration is running properly. How you doing there, Michael Jolly, the bald-bearded builder? Good to see you. So we should see when I push up through the dev branch, we should see the contributors include Eagle here in a few minutes when I push into that branch. I'll take a look at the login view. So this is a component that Kabazi's working on. Bunch of files changed here. So this is a test for the anonymous user. Okay. That it handles when somebody is anonymous on the login component. Okay. Blazor Web Forms components, login controls role group. So we have a role group we're introducing here. Okay. Anonymous user with no role group. And it's just making sure with an authentication state provider, setting up and returning a new authentication state with a fake principal. Nice. Okay. Display no content when nothing has been set. Login view. And should be empty. Cool. Okay. Logged in user with no role group. So here, login view, anonymous, and logged in. Dr. Heinz Doofenshmirtz. Nice. Nice. Looks like the hair's losing the blue hue. Are you kidding? We've still got it. We've still got it. Yeah, it's fading. I may need to tighten it up a little bit here. I need to get it cut is what I need. So, okay. Role group, first group on multiple match. I love seeing these unit tests. These are really great, Kabazi. Defining all the different claims and making sure that it outputs properly. Nice. Role group, first match. Okay. Cool. Role group, no match with logged in template. Wow. You put a lot of work into this. This is really great stuff. To get us a login view component, here's the login view component. And it's right now just outputting child content. Receiving the authentication state provider. And I like this. Returning anonymous template if it is anonymous. The role group just inherits the base web forms component. Receives the login view. And so you're doing the processing and passing it back up the chain. Very cool stuff. That role group collection, so you're managing that list. Alright. Cool. Very cool stuff. Thank you, Kabazi. So add the login view. This branch has conflicts. What happens when I click update branch? Gonna rerun the test. Cool. You do a great Doofenshmirtz impression. At least that's what they tell us. All right. And I will control click over here. And I'm waiting to see if this is going to resolve, that I'll get my... Did I get the Live Coders Dev DNS to resolve? I think there's something else going on here. That it's not resolving that properly. So... There we go. Rambling Geek and Robert Tables are on the case. Thank you so much, my friends. All right. You think you know what's going on? Fantastic. Yeah, when we get done here, let's put that together. Ooh, I got a warning here. What's my warning? What's my one warning? Failed to publish test result attachments. Why not? Sure looks like you did. So, all right, that looks like it ran properly, right? Oh. Wow, Eagle jumped right in. Markup matches anonymous instead of saying get markup trim and should be. That's cool. That's a very cool suggestion there. Simplify the test. Very cool. Thank you, Eagle. I do not have permission to push to this repository. Okay. I can't commit into... Right? Yeah. So I can't apply that change. Hey, Urban Nomad. Good to see you. Hello. And then I'm just going to resolve the conversation, I guess. Right? We can look at and update this in a couple different places here. Is Kabazi here? Yes. If you want to resolve this, Kabazi, I'll take this suggestion and merge it. Zenark Alucard, hello, welcome. The markup matches is good to use when you want to compare the output of the component under test or a node with a string or other markup. Nice. Nice. Mono game, no. You may want to ask a friend of ours, another live coder team member, Lana Lux, when she comes on a little bit later. She's doing some work on this. So, Kabazi, Eagle has a suggestion here where you have get markup trim should be, and you're looking for a specific block of text. There's now a helper method you can call there called markup matches. If you can accept that change on this, I'll accept and push the commit through. Hey, Jean Valjean. Hello, hello. Thank you for the shout out, Hugo. Let that roll through. See, this music is either really, really quiet or it's either really, really quiet or really, really loud. I'd love to put a compressor on that music. So, there we go. Freddie Luger. Nice. See what you did there. Welcome in, Freddie. Asks, have I ever used Sonar Cube for quality testing? No, I haven't. And Eagle, I definitely see what you're saying. We could use similar tests, similar simplification of our test commands here in other places around the code. Makes perfect sense. The uptime still is weird. I don't get it. I don't get it. You know what? Let's take a quick look at that. There we go. Wait and see. Hey, good afternoon, Simo. Let me go over here. Let's go to C# Fritz. There it is, stream tools. Am I really streaming from a negative reality? No! That's just weird. No. Where is it? I think it's under chatbot, commands, uptime command. Here we go. Right, it has a 1-minute cooldown. Await service.uptime. And so this is going to go over to the Twitch service, which is in here, here. And this should have an uptime method. Commented out stuff. You know, I could just hit Control F and look for uptime. There it is. Underscore proxy dot uptime. Well, underscore proxy is this, which I believe is coming off of fritz.twitch, right? Which is the little bit that I wrote here. There it is. Get the stream and check the started at UTC now. Subtract the started at value. I bet you that started at is not UTC. I bet you it's not. Oh my goodness. The happiness number isn't low enough. What? What? Oh my goodness.
Oh my.
Fierce Kittens is here. Go! So, daytime UTC now subtract. Right, so this is looking to say, don't go get current stream data if we don't already have it. Frank!
Oh my.
Cheros raided my stream with 6 viewers.
Good morning, Frank. Thank you so much for the raid. Welcome in, raiders. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Jeff Fritz, and we're working on a Blazor component here, and we're taking a look. For some reason, the uptime on my stream is reporting really weird times. Hey, Copper Beardy. Hello, hello. Frank and Boucheros, Copper Beardy, Fierce Kittens. They're all members of the Live Coders team, and right now our livecoders.dev URL redirect isn't working too well. So we're trying to fix that. We transferred the domain and it's not handling the transfer well. Yeah, see, the uptime is just weird. Right, so this actually, the stream uptime, right? It gets the stream and takes a look at the started at value. Well, the stream comes off of /helix /streams user login equals whatever. So if I do this and I go to, what is it, API, right, Twitch TV, and we change this to C# Fritz, right, I need a client ID token, blah, blah, blah. I'll go over here to network. I want to reload. Right? Network. I don't want to, no. There we go. So here I'm going to add another header, right? Now, client ID is something that you can share. It is something that can be visible. Where can I grab one without giving away the ghost here? I think I have one in my app settings here. This one. Did I pass it? Twitch. It's not listed there. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to flip back over to this so that I can grab out of another file where I know I have a bunch of secrets, and I want to make sure I don't show it on the screen, because that would be bad. There's a client ID we can use. All right. So now I'll pass client ID as this and send. So now the response that I get says started at 3:06. So that's correct. That should be in my code flipping back properly. No, I'm not working on the Twitch bot right now, but there's something misbehaving here. Right? So it got the time. Right? So it got the result, converted that response from this, blah, blah, blah. Current stream as last fetch UTC ticks. That's not right. That's not right. I mean, I think it's clearly right in here where I need to fix it. Right? Well, wait, that's when I last fetched it. Okay, is that? Okay, I get it. So the current stream data is being saved. So my uptime returns a task of type stream data, which has a started at on it. But it's clearly not converting to the right time zone. Nah, not debugging directly in it, just looking back and forth here at this. I think that somewhere here we're getting a time zone flipped, even though I'm working in just UTC. Alright. Kabazi, are you going to accept this? Happy Chinese New Year. Yes, indeed. I'm just reading through this, you know? Inside.razor files. Yes, we'll take a look at this in a minute. You think that, right? That's a Twitch hat. There you go. Good to see you, Robert Tables. Hello, hello. I'm going to merge this and we'll take a look at some of these matchups. These markup matches in a little bit. And because we're going to write a bunch of tests here to go through this. So I'm going to take as an action item here to take a look at the uptime. And we'll take a look at that. Off stream later, we'll get a resolution for that and have this fixed. Alright. So let's dig back into our components here. We had a couple issues that were opened over the last day. Our model binding sample isn't working for the list view right now. We need to go back and fix that as well. But our friend Ed Charbonneau, he's another member of the Live Coders, suggested that we consider refactoring and using his Blazor component utilities package, which will build styles and classes and manage those for our components appropriately. It's a really cool idea, and we're going to schedule a pair programming session with Ed I think it'll end up being late next week based on what my current schedule looks like. Thank you for the follow, Craig M. Dennis. Appreciate you tuning in. Thanks so much. Hugo says hats aren't lit until they have a minimum number of LEDs on them. You're right, and I think that's something that I want to do in the next few months here. Have some fun with that. Making a hat with some LEDs on it that can be controlled with as an IoT device, so I can wear it around different events. Is that a question from yesterday? I see Raventhorn. No, it's from too long ago. Thank you for the follow, Ty Odell. Welcome. You'll send another PR using the helper method? Not a problem. Not a problem at all. Thank you so much. So we're going to try and have Ed on here next week, and we'll talk about using his Blazor component utilities package to simplify some of the things that we create and build for our components here. There was a discussion with Marin that we had yesterday a little bit around data binding, and Marin wrote in about our tree nodes that we're going to data bind to. We should make it a recursive process so that we can then support other data models beyond XML to bind data to our TreeView. It's a pretty interesting approach that he's suggesting here. The loops that create nodes can then count their level, their depth, so you can easily extract field names or other information from a list of bindings by their index. So we're going to explore this today and make sure that we bind our data as efficiently as possible here. Finally, Mark Phillipson has a comment for us, and this is pretty good. This is something that we as developers need to get better about. Accessibility in our components, in our applications. And Mark is suggesting that using a tree view can have some negative effects on accessibility for users who don't have all the features of a browser available to them. Mark's using speech recognition, so it's hard to move the mouse to certain points to expand a node, especially when it's very small. So a tree view is used. It's helpful to have a search text box to be able to search through the nodes below, and the arrow keys should work when moving around the tree view and expanding the nodes. These are very good points that Mark is making here, and this feeds in a little bit to a little of what we're suggesting for some sort of rendering mode around the components. So we're going to run into some issues where we want to make sure that our rendering matches the existing HTML that's rendered by ASP.NET. But there are some of the ASP.NET controls that have accessibility features you can turn on. I don't think the tree view is one of them. And we've also had suggestions. For example, the tree view is very table heavy. It renders a lot of table HTML as you're working with it. Maybe we should render some divs and spans or some unordered lists, some more semantic markup with appropriate CSS styles, CSS3 styles that render and generate those appropriately. So this really speaks to me what Mark is suggesting here to help make our components, while an easy transition for folks from web forms, let's give them a switch. Let's give them something that they can turn on in configuration that adapts the rendering, gives them the same features, but adapts it slightly and makes it better for everybody to use their application. I really like this, and it makes me want to add let me take a look back here in the code itself. I'm going to jump down into the TreeView branch that we're currently working in. We work in feature branches here that are specific for each of the features we're working on. And let me look at the TreeView documentation, because I don't think, yeah, there is no, in grid view in the data list, there's a use accessibility features right? Yeah, I don't see it here. That you can turn on to modify the way the table is rendered so that it is more accessible to folks. So what I'd like to do is I really like this suggestion, and for the tree view I would like to introduce a property, use accessibility features, a Boolean property that adds ARIA tags and helps improve navigation, keyboard navigation for the tree view, for the elements of the tree view. I think that makes sense. Let's see what we can do to help with that. This is absolutely this is an enhancement. I'm going to mark this as help wanted. It's a good question. And we'll leave it with that. But we'll do the data binding today, but I want to get into the use accessibility features here in the next stream or two. This is absolutely something. And if you out there, if you chat room feel motivated by this, if there's something that you can help with creating a unit test that exposes that the accessibility features aren't enabled properly, it'd be great if you could send that over. Send over a suggestion in a pull request, and we'll merge that and talk about it here on stream. So, all right, let's get into the data binding. Zebcode suggests not sure about relying on recursion too much because you'll get into all sorts of problems with stack frames, and you end up using memory very quickly. You're right. Let's take a look. Let's see what we can do to make that usable here. How we doing with the music, friends? I know this isn't our typical music that we listen to here. What do you think? How's the volume been? I'm trying to I would say keep an eye on it, but I'd say I'm keeping an ear on it. Huh? Wow. All right. We're getting there. Okay. It's a touch loud, but Pretzel varies. It does. So I've been watching my volume slider over here for this. Okay, so let's head back over to Visual Studio, and I'm going to open the project here. And see, here I am testing my DNS entries. So I'm going to open this back up. So I have my tests running in this panel over here, and I don't care what they look like, right? I'm not actually reading the test output here. I just want to see no red when it runs. And let me pull in those latest changes that Eagle submitted for us. There we go. There we go. Look at that. There's some fixes for us. Files changed. Watch it rebuild and rerun over here. Like I said, I don't care what it says right here. Just make sure there's no red. I want to see all green right here, and we'll be in fine shape. Missing the code by. It's like your show's signature. Which code by? Yes, this is Windows Terminal. Oh, the music to code by. Oh, yes, it is. I gotta change things up. Well, this is PowerShell over here, right? This is Windows Terminal. I have PowerShell running on both sides of it. I could add and turn on Cloud Shell. I could drop in Bash if I wanted. Different shells, you know, for different folks. But I'm running PowerShell on both sides here. So this terminal, yep, can run all kinds of different shells. So I have 83 tests, and they're all passing now. Fantastic. So let's head back over to the code, and we're going to talk about our TreeView and getting this to data bind and run properly. I should be able to run this. We started working with XML data source, right? This was a canonical example that was made available from the Microsoft documentation. And it kind of makes sense to be able to bind a tree with a hierarchical representation of navigation. I said it right. I said it right. Look at that. I said hierarchical correctly. That's right. And XML just kind of makes sense as a data type to bind to a representation like that. So what if we I'm going to switch to the TreeView. Well, the TreeView playlist doesn't have my new XML data source as part of that. So I can add that to the TreeView playlist. Get rid of this one and show just the TreeView playlist. Look at this. Love the test runner over here. Now, at this point, it's running properly because it's not actually enforcing or looking at anything, which is cheating, right? The test isn't actually inspecting here. So I want to make sure when this does bind properly that I have elements for each one of these, right? I should have a book, a chapter, a section, 2 sections, another chapter, and another section. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I should have 6 tables. So what I should be able to do is, right, we use this cut variable, right? Component under test, CUT, and we can say get component under test, and this is in fact the TreeView, and it should return to me the TreeView, and I should be able to say cut dot. Now there's a should match or markup, right? Was it markup matches to be able to inspect the markup? Now I need to actually test it a little bit further, right? So I'm going to say markup dot. Actually, I don't want to do a markup. I want to say find all, and I want to find all table entries. And there should be, how many did we say? Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We should have 6. Right, the count should be 6, and we can put an error message with that. Did not render all 6 nodes of the XML document, right? And it should come back and tell me whether or not it found and rendered those appropriately. So I'm going to rerun this one for the XML data source. Take care, Frank. Thanks so much for tuning in. Catching a plane for the next Ignite the Tour stop. Best of luck to you. Tramstars. Hello, hello. You can use git push with terminal. Absolutely. There's tabs on the terminal. It is a fancy way to run just CMD, but you can also run PowerShell and some other things in there, for sure. It didn't do anything. Run my tests. Might want to add Fritzbot to ignore Pretzel Rocks links. Yeah, look at that. We could fix that. Is that Namakubi? Welcome in. Ignore the Pretzel Rocks. Very good. All right, so there we go. I am getting my error here appropriately, that it isn't, right, for my XML data source, right? Should be 6 tables, but it didn't find any because we're not actually rendering them yet, right? We've written our test. The test is loading up this XML, and my TreeView should bind to that XML document. Now, right, in ASP.NET, the way it used to work, the way that it was designed to work was you would set up an XML data source component and specify, here's the file to look at.
Right.
Data sources are the devil. Don't use those. It's a component that points to a database, points to a location, and it's all being managed in markup. There's no way to test it. There's no way to maintain it. The only way to verify that that is working properly is to actually execute the website, which is a pain. So let's actually bind it to an XML document, a proper XML document. This way, you can load that XML document either from some static text, you can load it from an endpoint, right? Maybe you have an XML file sitting on your web server, wherever your XML file may be. Load it into that XML document. I don't care how you get it there.
And then?
Bind it to the TreeView. And that's what we're going to do right now. Let's bind it to this TreeView. Let's actually make it do the thing, okay? Because I expect this to be pretty easy to walk through and wire up. That here are the different levels that we're binding nodes to, okay? I expect this to be pretty easy to do.
I expect you to die.
No. I expect it to work, not die. All right, here we go. Let's do this. Let's do this. Extraordinary. Good to see you. Hello. So, we're going to have a data bindings element that we're going to need to create. Okay. That shouldn't be too hard to work with. And tree node binding elements inside of those. So we're going to need to pass the tree view down into those. Now we already have the tree view passes itself into a cascading parameter here. Where is it? Oh, right here, called parent tree view. So if we create, let me close some of these other, right? Here we go. And let's put this over here so we can see what the markup kind of looks like we're going to handle here. So we're going to create a data bindings that just has a collection of tree node bindings. Okay. I can deal with that. I'm not sure we do anything else with the data bindings element. But the tree node bindings specify these different things in the hierarchy. So we need a data source parameter. Right, and that data source is going to need to be an object, because we don't know what it is. It might be an XML document, it might be something else. So let's start. Let me start with the data source, and we'll build these elements next. So I'm going to put it here. Right, and I'll make this property. It will be an object called data source. And if this is set, is when we're actually going to do the data binding. We'll need to implement the onInitialize event, right? And at the conclusion of the onInitialize, go through and bind up the things, the stuff, right? Or maybe it's before. Well, we'll have to figure out the order of events on that. Right. onInitialized async, right? So we need the task brought in, right? This is so we can run asynchronously. I think I want to have it do this binding first. Yeah. So if data source, if it is not null, let's call a method called DataBind, right? We probably want to await that. Yeah. So let's create a region, because data binding, I have a feeling, is going to be a busy place here. You know what I mean? Private task, data bind. Okay, so at this point, I need to pivot and figure out, am I binding to XML, am I binding to something else, and how do I do that? So I could do a case expression, right? Or I could do something like, right, if data source is XML document, I could say databind XML, data source as XML document, and create a method that does that, right? Why don't you like this? No, let's do this. Return it. So then I can do, right? Private task, databind XML, XML document, source. Right, so now I've got some sort of source object, and this isn't returning anything in yet, right? So let's just do this, so that we get it going up the stack here, and right, get all of these red underlines working properly. What do you mean? What? What do you mean it's hiding? It's hiding which one? Base web forms component data bind. There's a data bind over here. Yeah, we do want to override it. I'm going to mark this as new. There it goes. Fantastic. All right, what are we thinking, chat room? Am I on the right path? Am I not? Am I coding this properly? So I'll actually do the data binding here. Or right, laying these out properly. Building the hierarchy that we're going to paint appropriately. Yeah. Let me take a pause while we're thinking and getting ready to build this data bindings element. I have a question from Cyberpunk Computing. Let me put this up so we can see it on the screen. What's my opinion on contracted software jobs? Have I ever worked a contracted position? I've never been a full-time contractor. I have had my share of side jobs, the gig economy, as it were, working with different folks. Wow, is that Rodpick? Thank you so much for the host. Appreciate you sending some folks over here. Welcome in. Appreciate you sending, like I said, sending some folks over here. Friends, my name is Jeff Fritz. We're writing a little bit of C#, a little HTML, so something called a Blazor component we're working on today that generates a tree view in the browser. And right now I'm answering this question from our friend Cyberpunk Computing about contracted software jobs. What were you working on over there, is it Rodpick or Rodpike? Let me know. Be great to share some information about what was going on over there on your channel. Thanks so much for tuning in. I have had my share of contract jobs. It's easy to get in over your head, because customers know what they want, but they don't appreciate the amount of work that's involved, and that's kind of telegraphed because they're bringing in someone to do a contract to deliver software for them. Because if they had the resources, if they understood what was involved completely, they wouldn't be contracting. They'd have their own folks do it, or maybe they don't have their own folks, and that's why they're bringing in you to help out. So you need to protect yourself and make these types of interactions when you're writing software for someone on a contract. Time and materials is important for that type of arrangement. You're going to need to have a very good contract with them so that it's clear the scope that you're presenting, that you're going to address in your solution, how you're going to meet it, and how the acceptance criteria that you've completed your task is defined. It's a very, very interesting business problem. But if you can get your arms around that properly, and you can manage scope creep, you'll do just fine. Best of luck to you with that question. Rald Peak. Terrific. Thanks so much. You were working on a cross-platform mobile app to do time tracking. Now, going back to what the question from Cyberpunk Computing, that's something that would be valuable for somebody who's working contract work to have, is an app to do their time tracking. I spent this many hours writing feature X for the deliverable. Really good to have something that'll help track that for you. I'll definitely have to tune in, Route Peak. Thank you so much for sharing. And I just followed earlier today, and I'm always looking for new folks that are writing code, that are talking about software here on Twitch. And we've built out quite a group here with the Live Coders team. Manage scope creep when you're running a business, and having a good accountant helps. Yeah, you don't want to be chasing. You don't want to be the Cobra Kai, as it were, chasing down customers to pay you. It just feels bad, and it creates ugly feelings between you and your customer. Yeah, the Live Coders. There are a bunch of free apps that do that type of work. Yep. You don't stream coding close to enough? That's fine. Hey, you know what? We can encourage each other. We can help each other. Our friend Fierce Kittens streams writing software once or twice a month. She's working on her schedule, but do what feels comfortable to you, what your audience enjoys. Yeah, and Zebcode makes a very good point here. Hang on. If you're going to start contracting, make as much money as you can, because it helps keep contractor rates high. If you're going to negotiate a rate with someone, and this goes not just for contracting, with any kind of business that you're going to do, you can always be negotiated down by your customer. They'll always say, can you do this for a little bit cheaper? Your customer is never going to say to you, you know what, Jeff, I'd like to pay you an extra $5,000 for this. I know you're saying it's only going to cost $1,000, but for you, because you're such a nice guy, I'm going to pay you an extra $5,000. They never do this. Start high and let them negotiate you down. 1 second here. Let's see. There we go. So start high and negotiate down. That's a really good piece of advice that a friend told me over the summer, and it's worked out well for me. And yes, Marin makes a good point. You don't want to start too high, because if you start too high, you may never hear from them again. They may go, too rich for my blood, I don't want to deal with this. That's okay, because if they do go off, if they do not reach out to you again, if they don't come back, reach back out and say, hey, you know what? If that price was a little too high, if 5,000 isn't the right amount for this, is 4,000. You know, if that isn't, what would work for you? I'm flexible. I want to do business with you. I'm very interested in your organization, helping you out, and you can negotiate, and that's how this works. Let's see. Take care of that. There we go. So, don't ever ever accept this as a response, that is not something that you as a contractor should handle. Don't ever accept exposure as payment. That's wrong. Okay? Do I have a good strategy for pricing? Asks Encoding. Different geographies have different prices they expect. The price that I might quote somebody in Philadelphia would be different than what I might quote somebody in New York, or I might quote somebody in Los Angeles, or I might quote somebody who's based out of New Delhi. Different geographies have different expectations, right? Consider how much you would make as a full-time job right now doing whatever it is that you do as a software developer, right? You'll find some rates that are available out on some contract boards or on different hiring, right? Job hiring websites. Figure out what's a rate there that you would like to be paid and divide that out into an hourly. And whatever that hourly rate is, double it. Because you're covering your own benefits. Start with doubling it, right? So if you divide all of that out and it comes out to, let's say, $100 an hour, start off asking for $200 an hour. You might have a good reputation. You might have the ability to say, you know what? Take it to 2.5, take it to 3 times that and ask for $250, $300 an hour. If that number you calculated is 100, okay? And then start playing with those numbers and see what feels right for you. I know people who start off and they'll ask for $300, $500 an hour. There are some folks that I know who will quote, if you want me to engage with your organization for a day, starting price is $10,000 a day. There are folks that have reputation that can say that. There are lawyers who will do this type of thing. There's benefits to asking for that. There's benefits to folks quoting that. Don't go in as a brand new contractor in a brand new organization as somebody that doesn't have an established base and ask for $10,000. They will laugh you out and they will never talk to you again. Zebcode has a point here that Microsoft and the .NET platform have been very good. It's used by big businesses and rates are generally very high. Enterprises have large wallets, have large pocketbooks, and they are more than willing to spend for quality work. Those enterprise technologies, .NET, Java, folks will pay a lot for. C++, folks will pay a lot for. So learn who are the good customers and who you can charge that money for. $10,000 to show up for a day, oh the life. Yes. Yes, and that's $10,000 before travel and expenses. So these are definitely things that folks can ask for. Whether you get it, different story. So, but you got to figure out and build that reputation so that word gets around. Oh yes, and don't forget taxes. Yes. Don't forget that. So, all right. So let's move back in. Let's take a look back at our project here. Data binding to XML. We need to be able to, we're going to read the XML document here and pass that down, actually create the XML nodes that are going to be rendered by our component. In order to get the nodes that we're going to render, we need to receive information about our tree node bindings over here. So, thinking out loud, these tree node bindings are part of a data bindings element. Now, I don't know the other data bindings, how that's structured inside of the component. So here's TreeView. Look at this. And let's take a look over here at the actual class. So here's some of the samples. There's our static nodes that we've already been able to do when you actually hard code the the markup for each one of those elements into the control. And this is the XML sample that we're trying to replicate. This is using a sitemap data source. So this is reading from some other data source, and it has a data bindings with, here's the fields to work with. Okay, there's our sitemaps. So maybe we can support sitemap. Looks like it's just another type of XML document we might be able to work with. We'll have to come back to that. And this is when nodes are dynamically created and populated on the client and added to the collection, which I think we can support. This is using that nodes element we already have. So I think we might be okay to thinking out loud now. And please, chat room, help me out here. Call me on this. You're right. Asking does not equal getting. You're right. Little Panda's rate is 2 vodka bottles, a sack of potatoes, and some muffins. Now you're talking. Now you're talking my price. So data bindings has tree node bindings inside of it. Looking at these two samples, data bindings, and it looks like data bindings doesn't have anything connected to it. It doesn't. It's just a container for tree node binding elements. Let's see if we can mock that up. See if we can make that something real here that we can do. And tree node binding, we're going to need to investigate this a little bit further because I see data member, I see text field, and I thought I saw down here somewhere navigate URL field. So there's a couple properties here we're going to need to blow out so that we can acquire those and build our nodes appropriately in the tree, right? So right now, tree is exactly the type of thing we're trying to build that looks over here, but we're going to generate it on the web page. So let's figure out how to build data bindings. So data bindings is an element that doesn't really have markup, but it has a collection of tree node bindings inside of it. So can we cheat? Can we have a data bindings parameter, right? Put it in here, right? Data bindings, right? Can we do something like this? And pardon me. Let's see. Let's go up here. Let's go public class data bindings. But this isn't just a class. This is a component, but it doesn't really have anything in it. So can I call this a component base? Right, because that's the Blazor base component. So heading back over to my sample here, does this start to light up? Right? Okay, good. Did you see that? How right here above me, the data bindings element turned turquoise on us here to indicate that it recognizes it. It knows what that thing is. Good. Hey, who's our new follower here? Wontons. Welcome on in. Thanks so much for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you in the chat room. I appreciate you joining us. It's not a framework or bits. Do I have any recommendations for alternatives to Firebase? Thank you for queuing up Zebcode's question. That's a good one I want to come to next. Alternatives to Firebase. So Firebase is a great online database that you can use, right? But it raises events as things change in it. The alternative that folks would point to, if I'm correct, would be Cosmos DB on Azure, and that's a great database that offers. Oh, thank you. There's Raoul Peak's question there. Cosmos is a great database that offers not just load balancing, but redundancy across Azure regions, right? It's really that cloud-scaled NoSQL database that you can work with. Similar, but it doesn't offer, I don't think it offers some of the notification features that you get out of Firebase. So, a couple different things that you can do do with that. But Cosmos is the one that I would look at. But I don't know too much. I'm not actively in the database game right now. Zebcode has a question here about how do I download .NET Standard 2.0? Well, .NET Standard isn't a framework per se. .NET Standard is more of a contract that frameworks adhere to. It's a definition of APIs. In Android, they have API levels, right? Java, I think they also have API levels as well. And these are definitions that say you adhere to this standard. And the .NET Standard versions are backwards compatible. So you have .NET Standard versions 1.0 through 1.6, and also 2.0 and 2.1. The contract that's defined in .NET Standard 1 is also available in 1.1, but 1.1 adds some additional features as well, additional APIs, etc., etc., etc. So if you implement .NET Standard 2.1, it includes all of the features of .NET Standard 2.0 and all of the 1.6 through 1.0 .NET Standard versions. All of the features are there. They're all things that you can reference and use. So this project that we're building here, while it is .NET Standard 2.1, it includes and has all the features of .NET Standard 2.0. Now, that means that forward versions of .NET Standard can consume this, okay? .NET Standard 1.0 cannot consume, .NET Standard 1.0 frameworks cannot consume this library, right? You write libraries that target a .NET Standard version. So this library targets .NET Standard 2.1. When .NET Standard 3 is released, and I'm making that up, when it's released in 2030, I don't know. This library will be able to be used by frameworks that support .NET Standard 3. .NET Standard 3 isn't a thing, though, okay? Now, if I target, the frameworks declare which version of .NET Standard they support. So .NET Framework 4.8 supports .NET Standard 2.0. And Xamarin supports .NET Standard 2.0, the current version of Xamarin. So you can build and target these different versions of .NET Standard, and those frameworks will appropriately apply and consume your projects. So I hope that that's a little bit clearer. Zebcode says, in the Before Web Forms project, you're having a problem with the compile. Project references NuGet packages that are missing and use NuGet package restore. Yeah, .NET Standard library should be available, and you should be able to restore and use that. So I'm right-click rebuilding Before Web Forms here. Now, right, this is a .NET framework, right? So here's where we're mixing and matching .NET Core, .NET Framework, .NET Standard. This is a .NET Framework 4.8 project, but in order for it to support .NET Standard, I have a packages config here that has .NET Standard Library version 2.03, but targets .NET 4.8. So when I restore my packages, you need to, because this is .NET Framework, you need to restore your packages by hand. It will go and install this library, and you'll be able to build the project. So you can't .NET restore, you need to NuGet restore. See, it's kind of confusing, right? You can come up here to the solution, and you could say restore NuGet packages, and it will restore NuGet packages across all of the projects. This is because NuGet changed from being a side tool that was used with .NET Framework to now being core to the process in .NET Core and .NET Standard. It's central to how we make our references now. So, yes, if you didn't have .NET Framework installed, haha, that's another thing. You're right, Zebcode. There you go. Well, there is a .NET Framework reference package that you can use on other operating systems that will allow you to compile, but you won't be able to run it because .NET Framework isn't installed on Mac or Linux. So there is a way to do that. I'm not entirely familiar with it because I primarily develop here on Windows. Hey, Super Viking. Hello, hello. Did I see Jess Chadwick is here? Hey, Jess. Big benefit of Firebase is the client sync is that it just happens. Yeah, it does. Yeah, there isn't a good alternative, you're right, for Azure folks. So, all right, so my data bindings, this goes away. So now I have tree node bindings. Now this is a component, but it doesn't actually do anything. It's not going to render anything. It's more of a container that we're handling tree node bindings that we're going to pass around. So can I do this? Right, chat room, can I do this? Can I say parameter and do something like, can I do tree node binding like that? Is that a thing? Can that be a thing? Can we make it a thing? So once again, this tree node binding isn't a class that's going to render. So if I do tree node binding, right, and this is a component base, and I'm just mocking this up here, right, just a little bit of scratch to see if I can get this to work. It's in the same file, and we'll move this out into other files. So it doesn't like that, right? If I do this, is that a thing? Will that clear this up? I don't think it will. No. So I don't have a good way to constrain that, it feels like. Has to be a render fragment of child content. I think you're right, Confission. I think you're right. Not terrible, but it's not going to let me constrain it to just tree node bindings inside of it. Keep the same file and keep it malleable until you're ready to move it into its own file. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's change this into render fragment, even though it's not really a thing. Tree node, well, no, it's going to be child content, right? But it's not actually doing anything in the tree node binding elements, right? Now see, it's, why isn't it finding that? Why aren't they going red here? Going turquoise. Tree node binding, right? You're doing something similar in a Blazor table that for column definitions. Oh, wait till we get to the grid view. Yeah, we're going to see something similar there. That should have updated properly here, right? This should build. And it should reflect found markup element with unexpected name. Right. I know. What do we got here? Await data bind. Alright. Hey, thank you for the follow. Murray JM. Appreciate you tuning in. So we'll no, I want to return this. And yeah, that return is an async method. No, all right. So if I do this, can I just? Okay, that feels weird. Thank you for the follow, Blended Software. Hello, hello. This still isn't. It's still grouchy here. It's still got the red underlines. Why is that? So the build succeeded over here. Right? This should still come back red. But the markup should go away here after it builds. There it goes. There it goes. And my data source, it knows what data source is. It wired that up. That's why we got the turquoise up there. So let's start hooking up the attributes that I have here are data member and text field, and I also need to receive that cascading parameter for the parent tree view. Cascading parameter, name equals parent tree view. So now I've got a way to hook up to this, and I'll call this parent tree view. Right, so now I've got a thing so that these know what that is and can pass stuff around there. Robert Tables! Yes, yes, yes. Welcome to the party indeed. So I have, right, text field is a string, and what is this here? Data member is a string. So let's create those two properties. String data member. What was it? Text field? Text something? Yeah, text field. Okay. And these are both parameters because we're going to be able to pass in values to these, right? We expect these to be attributes over here. So those should go turquoise now for me. So I've got the 3 bindings there, and I'm going to end up using those to drive how I do my XML binding. Came here to see Sharp, but you're staying for the relaxation. Well, thank you. Thank you, Blended Software. It's something that feels good while we're
Do it live!
While we're doing it live. That's right. Thank you, Bill O'Reilly. Okay. And all those went turquoise. So what if I just take these tree node bindings and I just stuff them into a collection in the tree view? I could do that. I could totally do that. ASMR live coding. Welcome back to the delicious code. My name is Jeff. And we're just going to build a little tree view here today. Happy little tree view. Thanks so much for tuning in. Do I think a Monaco editor component could be useful? Oh, yes. Absolutely. There's a lot to it, though. But just the text editor? Yeah, would be useful. For sure. Let me create a... I'm going to make this an internal collection of... Let's make this a list of type data bindings. No. Tree node bindings. And we'll call this data bindings. And we'll make that a new list. So there's something there that we can work with. Yeah, you don't like that, do you? Punk. You punk. Where'd it go? This. Right? But I do want the data bindings to be a thing. Go back. Put that back. Put that back. Okay. So let's call this tree node bindings. Tree node bindings. So as these are being created, right? Let's add it to the parent tree views. Tree node bindings, add this. Oh, it's so good. It's so simple. Oh my gosh. All right, move that out. You, go somewhere else. There it goes. And you, go somewhere else as well. Okay. All right. I'm feeling good about this now because I have my tree node bindings. And right there, it isn't really a definition as to order here. Right? Looking back at the documentation. So for up here, its data member is looking at the XML element name. And the text field is the attribute on it that we're going to use. Thank you for the follow. Is that Alex Flight? Thank you for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you in the chat room. Exposing the collection, you'd make it a method to add. Okay, let's do that. Sure. I'm game with that. Tree node binding, right? And we'll call this tree node bindings. And we'll make that a new collection. So add tree node binding. Sure. And we can just say tree node bindings add that. Right? Internal void. Right, so now if I go back over to here, I can just say cool. All right. Thank you for the recommendation, Conficient. Zebcode asks, what sort of charts am I after for the chart control? I don't know. So the chart control, can I park that question for a second? I want to get through this. Let me do this data binding here, and let's see what we can make this into, okay? So for the XML document, to get this, right, so at this point, at the point that DataBind XML is being called, I should have, in my tree node bindings, these three elements. Let me just debug this and make sure that I have the order of events right, and at this point, I have those tree node bindings wired up. The unit test, when I'm done this, will ensure this is wired up properly because all of the events will be delivered and it shows up in the right order. So I'm just going to debug in here just to make sure that I have my tree node bindings populated here, right? So there we go. I've stopped at this point where the data bind is being called and I don't have any tree node bindings. That's a problem. That's a problem, right? Because when does it call this? Right? No. Yep, so that broke. Let me run the test again, and let's see when it actually calls this. Because I expect this, because it's inside. Maybe it's not being called because it is inside. Let me see which comes first. So DataBind XML, which if I look at my call stack, is being called inside of DataBind, which is up here before the base on initialized. So maybe we need to move this after the base happens. Right? So that everything is created. Yeah, we're going to need to make this awaited. Like that. Thank you. Which means I can now await that. And I can async this. No, we're good there. We can do this. Yes, okay. So now let's run this and see if it's populated properly. You think I need parameter set? Okay. Because we may be adding elements later. Ooh, Conficient, you might be right. So I've hit my task completed task over here. Yeah, before that happens. So let's shift this and make this into on parameters set. It should be on parameter set async. I spelled that wrong. There we go. So let's see if we get this time in the right order. So I'll debug the test again so it uses this markup that we've already defined how it should work. And let's see if we get things built properly. Aaron in Cincy, hello, hello. And I've pinned your question there, Zepcode. I want to come back to it. So I'm at DataBind XML, and I'm still not hitting here the on-initialized async for the tree nodes. I know why. I know why. Do you know why? Because they're never rendered. The data bindings over here, we never render our child content. Not property. We need to render it. We need to actually call it and do the thing. Not a problem, Zebcode, for the frequency questions. You know what? Start that as a discussion, as an issue on the repository. That way, we can provide some links and things to that will actually end up feeding into documentation. And then we can have we can have that discussion appropriately. That's a great idea. Why isn't that? There is no argument given that responds to. You're right. There isn't. But the tree node binding doesn't actually have any content. But I do need to call it. So what's the best way for me to do this? Can I say build render tree? And before I actually do it, can I say child content builder? Can I do that? Yes, you don't know what that thing is. Hello? I said using. Thank you. Will that do the thing? I don't know. This is new for me. Oh, Aaron, I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh. Certification exams. It's painful when you just miss it. So painful when you just miss it. Oh my goodness. Pardon me for a second. I'm just double checking my schedule. We've got time. We got time. So once again, I'm calling DataBind XML, and now it gets the parent tree view on tree node binding. So there they are, adding the 3 bindings. So it's interesting. This should now be called in onParameter set, right? So I'm hitting an order of events here. You're gonna get it next time, Aaron. Absolutely. Now you know what to look forward to. Let me debug that again. No, I know they're in the wrong order. Okay. Can I force this issue, right? I bet you this isn't being called in that order either. Let's debug this one more time. Here we go. So look at that. It didn't even call the build yet. It's calling render the task. Now it's building the render tree over here and coming back through. Okay. So maybe we need to actually have, for our data bindings, a class to go with a little bit of markup to go with it, even if it's empty, just so that we get it rendering, right? So if this is databindings.razor, which is it's gonna choke for us here, just for a second, while I rename this to .razor.cs. We get the cool nesting there. I'll make this a partial class. I don't need the component base on it, and I can get rid of this. But I can take this and just say @child content. And now, even though there is no child content coming out of the thing, the other, I think we're kind of cheating here by saying child content, which is our tree node bindings, and there's nothing in there. They don't actually have content they're rendering. So this is going to start, and I should see, come on, show me some breakpoints. Darn it! That didn't work. So I'm still in the set parameters here, and it's calling task, and now I'm getting the add tree node bindings. Okay. So let's back up a little bit. Let's change the event again. So instead of onParameterSet, I think we did this with our other data bindings. The last event that we can wire up to is on after render. And we can, right? We can kind of force this one. Thank you for the follow, Cookie50. Hello. Will parent tree view be set when I hit on initialized? No. Let me. Right, if I do this and put that there, make this a thing. So now it's on initialized async. Let me show you. Oops. Oops. I can't stop it, Captain. That. Right, so I'm letting it do the on initialized for everything else down below this component first. So that after that's done, then we'll try to data bind. Let's see what that looks like. Thank you for the follow, FanMax. Thank you for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you in the chat room. Okay. Yeah, that's not quite right. But look, I'm still getting the data bind happening before the on initialized of the child controls. So yeah. Right, we're not getting the eventing happening the way that we want. And if this was on parameters set async, right? I don't think we're going to get it there either. You're from Brazil and you're a streamer also. Well, thank you for tuning in, FanMax. You work with C# also. Terrific. Hey, Mots, good to see you. Yep, right, FK was here. There she is. With the Yoda sips there. Yeah, I'm still getting tripped up here in the order of events, and that on parameter set happens after. So what next? All right, let's back up here. I think we need to do it on the after render. I think that's where we're going to end up doing this, so that the controls are wired up appropriately. Yeah, let's see what happens with this now. I did not open live share. We can open live share if somebody would like to redeem it. Haha, see what I did there? There's definitely something we can do with that. So let's see. Debug, debug. There we go. Now I'm getting my tree node bindings added. Let that go through. Now on the DataBind my tree node bindings. Hey, look at that! Webface has requested a public read-only live share. I will open that up. I think I have the order of events working now. One Love, IPFS. Let me come to your question here in just a minute. But we're going to open up live share here as requested by Webface CA. Let me open my reward queue here. Let that load. There it is. So, Visual Studio Live Share is something that you can use if you are in Visual Studio 2019, if you are in Visual Studio Code, and you can allow folks to connect in and navigate around your code. So, here comes Live Share. It's going to be coming online here. I'm going to make this read-only. And if you're at home, if you're at your office and you'd like to navigate around the code, here comes a link. We can take up to 30 folks concurrently, but you can connect in now and navigate around the code live as we're working. Thanks for the redemption there, Webface. So let me go to One Love's question here. What are my thoughts on Electron? I do use Visual Studio Code. I'm not using it right now. This is Visual Studio 2019, but I do use Visual Studio Code. What is the 5-year outlook looking like for Electron? I don't work on Electron. Running on real hardware, will apps all disappear because of the Chromebook syndrome or shift to web-based development? So Electron is itself a browser. Visual Studio Code is just web content, Node and HTML and JavaScript and TypeScript built on top of a browser. Visual Studio Online is just the user interface part built on top of and running in the browser. And the back end that's doing all the processing, compiling and things is being trafficked to an Azure server. So the shift to web-based development I think is absolutely coming. I don't think it's going away because there are times where it makes more sense to build and work locally because you might be working with sensors, IoT devices, hardware that you need to interact with. But there's definitely a shift to being able to do and push your compute somewhere else that's accessible and faster than what you currently have. I was doing some just review of code on GitHub by just reading through it and taking a look at it. Well, if I could actually open that in a Visual Studio Code running somewhere on GitHub that has my environment for my project loaded, that'd be really cool. That's the kind of thing that I think you're going to see more of. So there's a place for both. I don't think it's going away. Electron is going away, but I think Electron and Electron apps need to get a lot more disciplined in how they update the Chromium browser, because there are components in Chromium that go insecure, right? That are insecure. Folks discover vulnerabilities, and we need to make sure those are patched. And if you don't patch your Chromium, you're gonna have a problem. You use live share a lot for days of remote work. Yeah, there you go. Well, thank you, One Love. I'm happy to be able to comment on that. And let me finish the comment, the question that Zebcode had here about the chart control. The chart control that comes with ASP.NET is actually derived from a company called Dundas that was donated, made available? I don't see chart here. Where is it? Chart. We need the chart. Where's the chart? It was a web control. But, right, this is effectively the Dundas components here. There are tons of different charts that you can create out of this. And these are being generated and rendered server side. Right? Because it's actually mapping out and painting a chart. This is not going to be trivial to build. But part of me thinks that we might be able to wire up and just redirect to D3 and use that. Using some SVGs? Okay. Take a look. This is not a Music to Code by song. We're using pretzel rocks today. So, experiment with that, Zebcode. See how this feels plugging in there. Could be done, but it's not trivial. No need to use the D3. Cool. Okay. So, folks, I can see folks are connecting in, and I've got a bunch of folks navigating around the code here. So we now have our tree node bindings at this point. So if I'm going to create the nodes appropriately for them, I need to start navigating the XML hierarchy, identifying the elements, if it's a tree node binding, and adding it to my tree node collection with the appropriate depth, right? Because that's how, and once we have the tree node collection, then we actually need to render them. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's going to be a treat. So we need to convert tree node bindings into tree nodes. And tree nodes are over here. Right, that's the actual rendering. But we're going to want to be able to say new tree node, set its depth, and these values appropriately, and add it into the collection. Let's see how this goes. What if I also moved using named render fragments and put the bindings in one? Named render fragments. So the tree node is itself, right, a component. Where I was thinking I would be able to go with the tree view is right now, if there's child content, I render it here. And right now, if there's child content, it's static content. It's right, it's tree nodes. But if it's not tree nodes, if it's data bind, well, did we just screw this up? No. If it's data nodes, right? Hang on. I can go, where to go? Here, right? If it's child content, render the child content. I think we want to have an if statement here. If data bindings does not equal null, we're going to want to render well, I think we render the child yeah, we're always going to render the child content so that we get the data bindings output. But I think we also, was that the, can I say at data bindings? Does that work? Does that help? Right, with child content, I don't know what got in there. That's a whole bunch of stuff. Right. Synchronous on initialized will add themselves and will populate first. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know what got in there, but if I do have data bindings, I now need to do a for loop across the tree node collection that I have now on the tree node, right? Because on the tree view does have a collection of nodes, but I only want to output them if I have a data binding. Yeah. Is a Ditz Adrian, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. So I don't think I always want to output the child content. Right? And if I have data bindings, I could go into the data bindings component and use that to do my for loop when I render. That would work. That would totally work. Right. So there is no element that's being rendered for the child content. But I could do, right? Is it a for each? Or is it a for... I think I need to get the max depth and go across it. Hey, Twitch Loft. So if we say var max depth equals... come on. I have parent tree. Did I put parent tree view in this one? No, I didn't. Cascading parameter. And it's called, right, name equals parent tree view. Like that. Public tree view. Parent tree view gets set. So now I have it. And I could say parent tree view dot not data bindings. Nodes? Yes. Dot max. Right? And I want the maximum depth. So now I have the maximum depth. That's going to be okay, a byte. Fine. So now I can say for var I equals 0. Right, let's call this depth. Equals 0. Depth less than max depth. Depth plus plus. I'm going to render tree nodes that have that depth, and for each one of them, render any that that have it as a parent. And right here's where I need to walk this. Who created Blazor? Asks Twitch Loft. Steve Sanderson is who's credited with inventing the Blazor framework, and it's evolved significantly since then. The Microsoft team has been involved with that, and Blazor is owned by the .NET Foundation. So for each one of the elements that has that initial depth, right? We're gonna do a bit of recursion here, aren't we? Because I can render the tree node, right? I know what that node is. So can I just do, right? Can I? And I want to find nodes that, man, because that's a flat collection. And does the tree node know who its parent node is? I don't think it does. Oh, parent tree node. There it is. Okay. So let's do this. I don't need a for loop. Right? I don't need a for loop. I don't need this either. I can say at parent tree view nodes first, where the node depth equals 0. So that's the root. So now I have a tree node. Right. Is that. Right, so now I have a root node. Can I just say... And does it know... It doesn't know what to render what's inside of it. Right? If child content does not equal null. Well, we don't have child content in this case. We're going to build child content. Right, I'm dynamically building these. Has Steve Sanderson worn the Blazor? No, not yet. So we're going to be changing the way that this renders, the way that these wire up. Right? Particularly here. Because there is no child content. Like this. For it to be able to render and say, here's the child. If we drop declarative nodes, we'll have an easier time. Ah, that's funny. While you're not wrong, I thought we'd be able to do this. Wait a second. Stop the press. What am I thinking? Look at this. Look. The child element is just echoed after the containing table here. Thank you for the follow. Is that Stephanie Dev? Stephanie Dev. Welcome. Good to see you. And I look forward to seeing you in the chat room. Dude man. You were just watching a video with me and Suze Hinton, the No-Op Cat? Absolutely. Blazor Mr. Magoo. That's an interesting suggestion. Hang on. Could set the child content to a render fragment which builds the nodes, and then it's the same for both. So how do we build a... Uh-oh. The bot's going to sleep on me here. After the reward was redeemed. 1 second. 1 second. Tools. There it goes. So how do we build child content? How do we build a render fragment on the fly? We'd have to actually declare and add things to it. Hands-on Azure IoT with Node.js and MX chip. Oh, from Connect. That was a thing. Oh my gosh, that was a fun session we did. Big shout out for No-Op Cat. Try that shout out again, Hugo. That should work now that the bot's restarted. Render fragment is just a func. There we go. So I need to walk it back so that I build each of the child contents and get them added in. And then I don't really need the nodes collection. All that I've done is created the tree nodes, added them to the child content collection, and asked for a re-render of the component. Okay, I'm feeling you. So how do we build a render fragment on the fly? Right, at which point I don't need this. Right, I can build that render fragment for child content. And this goes back. Right, this all stays the same. I don't need that right now. But over here, where I'm doing the DataBind XML, here, build the child content render fragment. Actually, I'm adding to it. TreeView should be doing the rendering. Well, TreeView is going to hand it off to the component nodes that'll do the rendering. You have a func that builds the nodes and assign it to the child content as long as it returns a func that accepts builder and adds content to the builder. So child content is a render fragment, right? That I can invoke. So, do I just park that somewhere? Otherwise I lose my data bindings. Right? Can I move that? Like I want to copy the pointer, otherwise I'm passing a reference around. Thinking. This right here, right? Daro, no, I don't have experience coding in Unity. We've done it once or twice on stream. My friend Lana Lux, she's streaming right now. She's another member of the Live Coders team. Has tremendous experience with Unity. Could be a new render fragment. Ah, okay. So if we call this, let's call this node render fragment. That's Lana Lux. There we go. Hugo just put a shout out right there in chat. You can click through and check her out. And render above the cascading value. All right, I think I see what you're doing here. So if I do,
I'm Scott, I'm new here.
Alex Flight, thank you so much for the sub. Very cool. Thank you very, very much for that. Let's create this as a public, and we'll make a donation to code.org. We donate all of our subs, all of our cheers this quarter to code.org. They're helping students in American schools get science and technology into their curriculum. Really great stuff. Let's call this child node render fragment so we're especially clear as to what this is. Okay. There we go. So if we say, right, child, I want child nodes. Let's rename that. Child no A. F2. No, it didn't. Oh, wow. That F2 just got grumpy there. It's okay. Time for you to go home. Have a good one, Rambling Geek. So it's the render fragment is just... It's a func that builds nodes and assigns it to the child content. Okay, hang on. And it takes a render tree builder. Okay. Do you have some sample code that we can take a look at there, Mr. Magoo? Because that's kind of crazy. Right, so we're gonna end up building this. Right, this is,
Let me add some value.
Nothing else matters. Thank you so much for those 200 bits. Appreciate the, yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to focus on too many things here. Appreciate that, and we'll make another donation to code.org. Very much appreciate the support. All of our bits, all of our cheers. Absolutely. So, right, the render fragment receives... Let me see what that looks like again. It returns void, so it's an action. It's not a func. It's an action, and it takes a render tree builder. Okay, okay. I feel you. Right? Why doesn't it like that? Can we do new render fragment? Yeah, it's a delegate. So, yep, we're going to keep on going for just a little bit more here today. So how do you build, right? Blazor build render fragment. Let's see if we can figure out. Well, you, in the list view, you just output the fragment there. You called layout template, right? So layout template is for the list view, right? Where'd it go? Layout template. There it is. Is a render fragment of type render fragment, which is out there. So you're calling layout template and you're passing into the builder some C# that you want converted to HTML. Thank you for the follow, Harden KC. Thanks so much for tuning in. So, right, but we want to literally add these in C# code. Right? How to dynamically build the UI. Right? And this is private render fragment, right? We're returning a render fragment. All right, so there, and here's the open element, add content, open element, and adding these. Which is, right, dicey. So if we say child nodes render fragment equals, right, and now we do the for each across this, right, to say open element, add content, but I can add component. Can I just add component? I want to add a component. There's close component is, okay, open component. but I've got a specific component. Like, I have the component. Not just open it, but here it is. Add this. Right? Because I have the tree node. So, well, we will get this. I have no doubt. We're not adding markup content. If we look back at the list view. Yeah, we're actually calling those items here. Oh man, this is cool. Let's right, because we're literally building what the Blazor interpreter is going to do. It is well, if we do open component, right? You specify the component type. Right, so all right, so right, it's going to be whatever the number is, and we're going to figure out what the numbers are going to be here in a minute, because that has to be a sequence here. And the type is going to be, right, type of tree node, right? So we're opening that, and at some point we're going to do close component, right? But how do we know what to put in here, right? We got to add the content from it. Excuse me. So do we, is it the tree node there? Set the attributes. Well, add attribute. And go across all the attributes of, well, we've got them specified because of the tree node binding. All right, I'm feeling you. I'm feeling you. Okay. So, okay, let's get that maxed. Well, we know the numbers because of the number of entries that we have in our tree nodes, right? Well, we don't know the tree nodes yet. That's what we're trying to build here. Okay, we know the tree node bindings. So we're going to look at our XML elements. We're just going to start counting, right? I guess. Tree node counter equals 0, right? And we're just going to start for eaching through the XML document then. Because the XML document, come here, you, is a series of elements. And if the element is a tree node binding, then we're going to add it to the tree node. Okay. So let's say for each element in source. I don't want to say get elements. And we're going to end up recursing on this. Let's start with the top level element, with the root element. Not read node. Get element. Not by ID. I want to get the first element. I thought it was. Yeah, the document element is what is the root element. Okay, so that would be the book here. So let's do this. New document element. Huh. This is an XML element, isn't it? New XML element. Okay. So now I can say in this way I can turn this into an inline. Let's just do it now. Add elements. Tree node counter. We need to pass that as a... Oh no, we don't need to because it's going to be inline here. Okay. Now down here, no. We're going to define add elements. This is a method that takes a collection of XML elements. Let's call these siblings. Right? So now I think we're going to do this, right? I think so. So we've been passed in the root level element. For each element in siblings, right? We want to look at the element tag name. So if element dot local name, well, we need to see if it's in the data bindings. So let's write data. What was it? What was the tree node binding collection? What was the tree node binding collection? Tree node bindings. So, what do those look like again? It's been a while since we've looked at these. If, right, data member was the name of the element. So if data member if it contains right? Yeah. No, what? B data member equals the current element's local name. Right? So if there are any that match that, then we do need to output. We need to create that. Now, why am I still getting a... Alan Nielsen
just resubscribed for 5 months.
Thank you so much for that. Appreciate the 5 months of support, and we'll make a donation to code.org. Very much appreciate it. I should put an if. Put in... I guess we're alright. So if it does exist, then we want to start adding that element. Start creating a tree node for that. So, okay. Right? We're going to be able to say B. Right, and actually, because it's here, we need to pass that in. That render tree builder. Rats. Rats. Like that. So now I can say builder dot and open component. The sequence is going to be the tree node counter. And when I'm done adding it, increment it. And it's a type of tree node. What do you mean, no? What do you think? What does Chris have for us? Yeah. Right, open component. Don't use variables for the sequence. Why not? I have to. I don't know how many there are. I don't know. You may have noticed have a number associated with them. These are sequence numbers are extremely important to understand. The sequence number is used when Blazor is calculating diffs. Key advantage of this are the sequence numbers. These indicate to the runtime which outputs come from. There's a lot of misunderstanding on how they should be generated. Turns out most of us in the community were getting it wrong and dynamically generating these numbers like this. This led to Steve creating this gist explaining why these sequence numbers should be hard-coded. I can't hard-code them. I can't. Open region first, then start at when. Then it's okay to use variable. Okay. So if I, right, say open region, sequence, an integer that represents the position of the instruction in the source code. So I need to, right, can I force this, can I give it my own number? Can I call it something like that? Can I do that? Right? And inside there have my own numbers doing my own thing. I mean, I feel like because I'm hard coding this, I'm more or less saying 100 is the signature number for TreeView. Right? Do I have to? I have to provide a sequence number. So, and actually, I don't have to do it like that, right? I can do like this, right? The number represents the source code pointer. Start at 0. So I did start at 0. So, okay, I've opened component, and at some point down here, I'm going to have to close component. I need to add the attributes. Well, the only one that I know of at this point with this feature is text field. So I'm going to say add attribute. Sequence is going to be my tree node counter, and in render tree frame, I don't know what that is. Name. Well, let's do that. The name of it is text, and it's a string value. Object value. There you go. So my object value is going to be whatever that text field is on this element. So this is going to be element, get attribute, oh boy. Well, whatever that data binding is. That, right? This binding equals, because I have to capture this anyway. I'm going to need it. And it's not going to be any. I want it to be first or default. So I get one. right? And I could say if this binding is not null. So we found one. Then get attribute this binding text field. Right, and that returns a string. Yes. Cool. So I've now added the text inside of this. Now, before I go and close the component, I need to add another. I need to now start walking down the train. Does this have child elements? So, if is that Waco's TV? You wish? Thank you. I've been at this for a while. I'm practiced, and so maybe I can just do a for each var child elements. No, wait a sec. If element dot has child nodes, yes. Then I can say add elements. Right? Right? Come on. Come on, this is good. Get child. No. Come on. Child nodes? It's a node list. How do I get them as elements? This isn't child nodes, and right? Get elements by tag name? No. I want to get the node list as child elements. Select nodes? And I could select star? So I just get the next level? But if I do select nodes, those return nodes, not elements. It's an XML node list that it's passing. So maybe we do this. Source dot select nodes, and the XPath we're selecting is slash. Oh, we're cheating so good there. So now we're passing an XML node list. Right? So instead of this being like this, we do XML node list. Right? Oh, come on, friends. You remember your XML, don't you? So that'll give me, this is a object. Right. No. Now why isn't it right? I want to do a for each, but it's returning an object. That object's actually an XML node, isn't it? If is XML element. Continue. Right, I can do that and kind of make sure I get those. So then I can say element dot select nodes star. Actually, wait, get child nodes, right? That's an XML node list. There we go. Let's call this not, let's call that node. So now I could say var element equals node adds XML element. Right? Because I can cast like that, can't I? And now everything works. Oh, this has to be a thing. Tell me this works. First off, tell me this builds. Because this would be just bonkers if this worked. I mean, bonkers. Okay, build succeeded. Okay, did not find any elements in it yet. So, hang on. DataBind XML, we aren't actually outputting the child node's render fragment yet. So let's go back to TreeView. Here. Right? Can I just do child node's render fragment there like that? Does that do this? Oh, because that would be so cool if it worked. It would be so cool if that worked. I don't think it's going to work. No way does it work. Please tell me it works. It'd be really cool if it worked. Running the tests. Running the tests. Show me green. No. Okay. So, let's see what this looks like. You still with me in there, chat room? Let me come back over here. Still here. All right, Sean, good to see you. So, I'm setting this up. Is it actually doing this? Right? Let's debug and see if it hits it. We're not dead yet. I do have a hard stop in about 10 minutes that I need to get to. So we may stop in about 5 here so we can take a look. Alright, here it goes. Right. Alright. Adding the elements. Right, so we have our builder. Do all components need to use base model binding component? No. If they're not doing model binding, no. Okay, so it is adding the elements to this. Right? Let's make sure we actually get something out of this, though. Okay. So the first one that's passing in has one element. Right? If it's not an XML element, what? Oh, it's the document! I didn't select the first element, that's why. Come here. It's scrolling funny on me here. There we go. Data source as XML document. Okay, so that passes in. I want to select nodes. That one, not the document. Alright, let's debug that again. Xdoc, much easier to use. I agree, Conficient. But my XPath and DOM access here is coming flashing back to me. Come on. Now, the 5 folks that are attached are actually getting the debugger kicking up also. Right. I didn't get it to stop here. Hey! Try that again. And then we'll have to park this. But I think we've got something. Hey, why isn't that marked with my break here? Yeah, it's my breakpoints are getting cleared out here. Come on, turn on that breakpoint. I think I need to stop the live share. It's getting right, and I've got this happening up top here. Webface, let me come back to your question in just a second. That's a very good question. MB Crump is here. Can't open Twitch without clicking on my stream. Good to see you, my friend. I'm going to end the live share just so I can try and debug through this. It looks a little grouchy here. I may need to restart Visual Studio because I might be doing a little bit too much at once here. So let me debug into this again, see if we can do this XML traversal. So, yeah, live share got a little flaky. Let's see what happens. Hit right here. Okay, is the node an XML element? Yes, it's the book element. Good. Now we should start getting that rendering. Let's see what happens now. This time it's the element for chapter. Fantastic. So it should have rendered those. We got a table. We got a table. Not all of them, but it did something. So I'm not quite sure what it did yet, but I have the same sample running up here in my Blazor server side. So we might have something here. Might have it. Let me see what this looks like, and then we're gonna commit where we are, and we'll come back to this. Maybe we'll do some work offline to clear this up and recap on Sunday stream. So here it is, XML data source. Yeah, that didn't do anything. Where'd it go? Surely there's something in here. TreeView XML data source sample. There's the paragraph. There's nothing there. It didn't render anything. All right. So I'm going to need to spelunk into this a little bit and see what's going on. Why it's not... what it's doing and what it's not rendering there. But I think we're close. We're forcing it to do I mean, right? If I put that breakpoint back on this and I start IIS Express with the debugger attached and click back into that XML sample. What time is the Sunday stream? Asks Urban Nomad. Same time. There's actually a schedule just below the video here on Twitch. So if I click in... well, that didn't actually do that. It didn't get there. Okay, now you've got me thinking. Am I going to get to this one? Now I got to it. But that didn't get into calling add elements. Wait a second. Oh. Oh! I'm sorry. Come back up here to the sample. Here. Nope, there it is. It's in the uninitialized. It loads the XML, but has that already happened? Try that again. See, come on. There we go. So I will hit this breakpoint. Okay. There it is. So it loaded the XML. And now it's data binding it. And we do have the document. Right? Come here, you. Show that off the right way. Right, inner XML. There it is. So that looks right. Good. So this is going to step in the elements, right? So I've got a thing there, and it's going to go through and do the add elements here, and we should start seeing it. It didn't hit this at all. See that? Well, actually, is it calling that? So there it is, loading the XML. Good. It never called here, right? Child node's render fragment is right there. It should be calling that. Do we need to call state has changed here? Because we've added elements to the render fragment. But right, I want to force. Hey, I've defined there's new content here. Restart. Actually, no, we're in the on after render. We moved the data bind to on after render. So it's not actually calling this, it's assigning this method, but it didn't actually call it. So XML data source, add now it's calling it. See it there? There it is. Okay. And we've got an error. That's okay. We've got something, right? No element is currently associated with component. With component 73. Look at this. There was an error in applying batch 17. All right, this is a little bit of what Chris Sainty was talking about. So let's do this. Let's go up here to on after render. You make a very good point. We don't want to end up in a permanent loop. Only do it on first render. So, right, one more time. And I think a couple folks answered WebFace's question there. It's being used by another process. Knock it down. Thank you. Here we go. This is kind of crazy. Writing components by hand and merging them up like this. It's only a little bit crazy. Right. So this is, it's not applying the components properly, but we'll figure that out. But the elements that it applied, right, it added that first table for the tree view. It's got it. It's just not walking the entire hierarchy. So we need to figure that bit out. We made some good progress. We've gone somewhere, we've added some things, and we're now getting those elements to generate. We've got a couple things that we need to address in this. where's my pretzel? Here, I'm gonna stop right now. And let me check in my code. But we've got it now starting to generate, starting to build the hierarchy for our component. It's not done yet. It's still a little bit flaky here, but we need to walk through and figure out how to generate those elements appropriately. I'm going to add those files that were changed and commit them so that we can continue working on it later. Maybe Blazor Mr. Magoo wants to take a look when he has a chance, or somebody else. You're welcome to jump in and tinker. So let's say starting to dynamically add the nodes to the tree nodes. Make sure we're clear on that. Tree nodes to the tree view for the XML data binding. There we go. And I'll sign that. Push that out. I do have a broken test here, and that's okay, because it is broken. This is what we need to fix. It's a work in progress. Thank you so much, friends. I really appreciate the time you spent with me here today. We did a lot. We accomplished a lot. We're not done our feature yet, but we learned a lot about how to build the dynamic components inside of Blazor. Really, really important stuff to be able to do. Let me jump over. Where is Twitch? There it is. Let's see who's out there streaming right now that we can set up our raid for. Have a good one, Urban Nomad. I will be back on Sunday. You know what? He was here earlier. We've got to raid him. It's only fair. There's the raid call. If you're a subscriber, copy the first line here. If you're not a subscriber, copy the second line there, because we are going to raid the one and only InstaFluff. Gotta raid the guy. He was just here. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. This was a lot of fun. I learned a lot, and we're going in the right directions with being able to dynamically add components to our parent tree view. I'll be back on Sunday. This video, like my other videos, will be over on the YouTube channel. I've been adding 2 or 3 videos a day from our backlog. We're going to catch up here in the next few days, I promise. All right, friends, get ready to say hello to InstaFluff, and I will see you Sunday. Take care.